Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. I'm so glad that you're here today. Whether you're new or you've been here a while, I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to be talking about 6 authors that I love and that I would like to read every book that they have published. Possibly. We're going to go through in order of the ones that I have the fewest left to the ones that I have the most left. And the first one on my list is Fredrik Backman. I like Fredrik Backman's contemporary, hard-hitting style. I love his short chapters. I love that he packs a punch at the end of each chapter. It kind of is almost a cliffhanger or a zinger that leads me right into the next chapter. I just really enjoy his works, and they're all translated, I believe. Yeah, translated by Neil Smith. This one is. I don't know if all of his books are translated by Neil Smith, but Neil, if they are, you do a great job. So these are all set in Sweden, I think, which is where he's from. But I do really like him, and I have read 8 of the 10 things that he has published already, including his nonfiction, including a novella. I have left The Winners and The Deal of a Lifetime, both of which I hope to read this year. The Winners I'm going to read for series September. Deal of a Lifetime I would like to read around Christmas time, and that would bring me to the end of Fredrik Backman. So what I'm going to do with these 6 authors, I've pulled out one book from each of them that I'm going to leave out and hopefully read before the end of the year, make progress on all of these 6 authors, which would be amazing. So The Winners I'm hoping to get to in September. This is the 3rd book in the trilogy that starts with Beartown, and then there's Us Against You, both of which I really loved, and then The Winners will finish that series. The next author also has 10 books out, and I've read 7 of them, Katherine Ray, and I love Katherine Ray's historical books, but she also has a couple that are Austen related, The Austen Escape, Lizzie and Jane, Dear Mr. Knightley. So there's some that have connections to Austen's novels, but she also recently has been writing a little bit more historical fiction, which is what this one is, The Berlin Letters. This is set during the Cold War, which I just don't feel like I've read enough books set in the Cold War. So I'm really excited to read this one and get one step closer to finishing Katherine Ray. The other 2 that I need to read, I also own. A Shadow in Moscow is on my NetGalley, and A Portrait of Emily Price is another book of hers that I do own as well. So I'm very close to finishing all of her books. I would love to be able to do that soon. The next 2 authors, I have 8 left to read of their books. So quite a few still, but one of them is a Christian fiction, but more thriller, suspense, intense, and that's Jamie Jo Wright. I just discovered Jamie Jo Wright recently, the last few years or so, thanks to Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day. I have absolutely loved the books that I've read from her so far, which are The House on Foster Hill, Curse of Misty Wayfair, The Reckoning at Gossamer Pond, Souls of Lost Lake, and The Premonition at Withers Farm. I have loved all of those. What I love about Jamie Jo Wright is that there's always a dual timeline, and they're almost always about a century apart, 100 years apart. And so there's a historical bent to it, which I love. There's also this question of paranormal in most of the ones that I've read. There's not all of them, but in a lot of the ones that I've read, there's this question of, is this a ghost? What else is going on? If it's not a ghost, what's really going on? And she keeps me guessing right to the end. So the one that I've chosen of the ones that I haven't yet read is The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus. I'm going to try to get this on my October TBR because I just feel like a haunted circus feels very October-y to me. Actually, Jamie Jo Wright in general writes books that are perfect for those who love to read thrillers and intense mystery historical books in the fall. She's a perfect author for some fall reads. So yeah, I really hope to read this one in October and get one step closer to reading her to 0. The other author that I need to read 8 books by is Hazel Gainer. I've only read 4 of hers so far. The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter, Last Christmas in Paris, The Girl Who Came Home, which was my first one by her, and then The Last Lifeboat, which is one of her more recent or most recent books. I love her historical fiction. I love the way she makes me feel the emotions of her characters and draws me right into her story. Of the 8 that I have left to read, the one that I've chosen does feel pretty fall vibes to me. It's The Cottingley Secret. This one takes place in 1917 and the present day, dual timeline. And it's about 2 girls who are out playing one day and they take some pictures and they claim that they have captured some fairies in their picture. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle confirms that these are fairies in the pictures. And so there's this mystery surrounding, did these girls really see fairies? Were they playing with the fairies? Like, what's going on there? And then we have a present day storyline. Olivia inherits her grandfather's bookshop in a small Irish harbor town and discovers far more than dusty old books. A forgotten manuscript tells an enchanting story of a nation gripped by fairy fever. So then we kind of follow the story between the two timelines. It sounds really good, and I feel like it has fall vibes to me. At least the cover has fall vibes. So this is the one I've picked out to try to add to my TBR this fall and make progress in reading Hazel Gainer down to 0. The next author might be the one that I read the longest time ago, got started with the longest time ago. And I've read 4 books by this author too, but I have 9 left to read. I think she has 13 books out, and that's Susanna Kelley. She has written a lot of historical books as well, but always there's this element of time and magical time. So time travel or a portal or memories that are actual real life events, or just different ways that she plays with time in her stories. And I have loved everything that I've read by her, which is Named of the Dragon, The Firebird, The Winter Sea, and The Rose Garden. So The Rose Garden was my first. Then I read The Winter Sea, and The Firebird is a sequel to The Winter Sea. And I believe The Vanished Days is one of her newest, and that's part of that series. But I also have Bellwether on my shelves. I think I own almost all of her books. Not quite all, but almost all of her books. And so the one that I've picked out that I would like to try to read before the end of the year is on my recommendations cart this year. And I believe it's her debut, Mariana. I really love Susanna Kelley. It's been way too long since I have read her. And so I'm eager to dive back into one of her stories. I find them very compulsively readable, interesting, that element of history in there. I really love it. And then again, how she plays with time, mind-bending. So I'm excited to read another one by her. And finally is a new favorite since starting BookTube, and that is Amy Harmon. I have read quite a few Amy Harmon. I've read 8 out of 21. She's the most prolific on this list, but I have been doing really good reading her books. I think From Sand and Ash was my first one. And then I've read Where the Lost Wander, What the Wind Knows, A Girl Called Samson, The First Girl Child, Unknown Beloved, The Songbook of Benny Lament, and then most recently, The Outlaw Noble Salt. Yeah, everything I've read from her so far is historical, but I do believe this one, Making Faces, is contemporary. And I'm curious if I'm gonna like her contemporary books as much as her historical books. I almost was gonna pick the second Blind Sun, I think, is the sequel to The First Girl Child, because it's series September coming up. But this one has such a fall vibe to it, the colors of it. And I'm just super curious to read a contemporary by her, because a lot of her backlist is contemporary. So I'm wondering if she's going to stay on this list once I get going with her contemporary. Maybe I'm just not going to be as interested anymore. But I do love her writing. I love her historical fiction novels. And I enjoyed the fantasy, so I need to give her contemporary a try to see if she needs to stay on this list. So these are the 6 books, one from each author, that I would like to read before the end of the year. I think it's doable. I'm going to keep these out and in front of my face, and we're going to see if all of these authors are still going to be on my list come 2025. This might be part of my goals for the next year. I don't know that I have any authors that I have completely read everything that they have put out. So it would be nice to say that I have a few authors. Oh yeah, I've read everything by them. So that's the goal here. I'm gonna see how it goes. I would love to know, do you have any authors that you've read everything that they have written? Everything? Is that something that's interesting to you? Do you try to read everything by any authors? We'll have to revisit this in a year or so and see how I'm doing with these authors, if I'm making any good progress or not. And if there's any new ones on the list or ones that I've switched out for others or what. We'll have to just check in a year and see how I'm doing. But I would love to chat with you down below and know if you have any authors that you have read to 0 already, or if you have any that you're trying to. Let's chat in the comments. I always love talking with you down there. Thank you so much for watching and spending a few minutes of your day with me. I really, really appreciate you. And I hope that you're having a wonderful day. I'll talk to you in another video very soon. Bye.